Good afternoon, everyone. On this glorious day, my name is Caroline Colas. I'm the Senior Director of Health and Wellness at the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan. And today on our Positive Psychology Hour, a series that we do in partnership with the Whole Being Institute, we are going to be talking about where do we go from here, chaos or community? This is week 2 with Uneeda Brewer and Stephen Redmon. If you missed week 1, which was last week, do not worry. We will include that recording with this week's recording so that you can take both of those, participate in both of the series. In addition, someone was asking me about the Positive Psychology series. We meet every Tuesday and Thursday at noon, and there are different speakers in relationship to resilience and positive psychology. So I encourage everyone to please join us every Tuesday and Thursday at noon. In this second part of our 2-part series, we will provide an opportunity for everyone to share their expressions of creative, nonviolent direct actions with the goal of building and strengthening community in the service of social, racial, economic, and environmental justice. We anticipate and hope for a lively and productive discussion that continues to activate our hope and demonstrate the value of micro actions and micro goals, and provide ways we can use positive emotions to sustain us during these turbulent times and help us when difficulties arise so that we keep moving forward. Uneeda Brewer has more than 25 years of experience coaching individuals to improve their personal effectiveness and their ability to work well with diverse colleagues and consulting with teams and organizations to improve the outcomes and employee satisfaction. She retired from Johnson & Johnson, where she was responsible for one of the corporation's global executive education programs. And she is a certified practitioner of psychodrama, sociometry, group psychotherapy, and is in the process of completing the requirements to become a trainer and educator in this field. Uneeda is a founding member of the recently organized Action Training for Social Change collective in the Tampa Bay area, which designs and delivers trainings for religious and community groups to help individuals and groups create and support social justice initiatives in their communities. She's enrolled in the Whole Being Institute Positive Psychology Coach Certification Program, the Certificate in Whole Being Positive Psychology, and was trained as an executive and life coach in the Core Essentials program provided by Coach U, Inc. She holds a BA in American Studies from Goucher College and an MSW from Clark Atlanta University School of Social Work and Policy, Planning, and Administration. A little bit about Stephen. He leads yoga retreats around the world through his business, Namdar Yoga. His specialty is helping people, often veterans, cope with trauma. A veteran himself, Stephen worked for the Department of Defense and then as a special assistant to the General Counsel of the Department of Veterans Affairs. He has many degrees. He's earned a BA from Colgate University and served as a Peace Corps volunteers in Sierra Leone, West Africa. He earned his JD Law degree at North Carolina Central University School of Law, where he researched and developed the first edition of the Rules of Court for the Cherokee Indian Tribal Court. He earned a Master's of Law, LLM, in Environmental Law at Pace University School of Law and an LLM in Military Law from the JAG Legal Center at University of Virginia. He holds a PhD from Fielding Graduate University in Human and Organizational Systems, and inspired by his commitment for national service and national security after the tragic events of September 11th, he completed his MS in Strategic Intelligence from the National Intelligence University at the Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, and taught graduate level courses at DIA on the law of intelligence. My gosh, you guys, you are so accomplished. Welcome to the call. I'm so glad you're here. And I shortened their bios, you guys. You guys are incredible.
Oh, thank you, Caroline. We are so happy to be here. Do you want to do the 3 feelings or do you want me to do that?
You can go ahead and do that. I'll put it in the chat for you.
Okay. Well, to warm us up and get us started, we're going to do 2 things. I'm going to ask you to take a breath and to share with us, if you will, 3 feelings that you have right now. And after that, then Stephen is going to lead us through a breathing exercise. So in chat, would you share 3 feelings you're bringing to this call? Any 3 feelings at all. And then Caroline and I will read them. Hope, relief, calm, jubilant after yesterday, hope again, energy, grateful. They're going so fast. Hope, encouragement, happy, hopeful, open. Relief, centered, hope, love, hopeful. Look at that hopeful coming up so often. Excitement, relief, unity. Wow. Positivity, hope, relief, joy. My goodness. Hopefulness, limitless, uncertainty, hopeful, grateful. Yes, uncertainty can live even in the midst of hope and relief and happiness. Concern that people who still believe the election was stolen, grateful, gratitude. Hope, love of learning, beauty. Wow, joy. Calm, grateful, all positive adjectives. So everything, right? That's great. Hope, love, excitement, joy. Thank you. Another confusion on anxiety and hope all at the same time. We know that it's entirely possible to have more than one feeling operating inside of us at the same time, and they don't all have to be the same timbre. They can be different. Wow. Thank you so much. I wanted to always add mine to whatever we're asking people to do. And I don't remember, but both of us are resonating to happy this morning. We also see from Bonnie, frightened for the safety of so many, excited, anxious, filled with love. And I was going to say I have a little bit of anxiety too, happiness and a little anxiety. Thank you, everyone. And
Thank you, Uneeda.
Stephen,
Do you want
may
to
I?
have Stephen? Yeah,
Yeah.
Stephen come.
So if everyone could just, thank you, Uneeda, for that. I think that allows us to release a lot of what's on our minds, our hearts, and our spirits. So for now, if everybody could just sit back. I know sometimes when we do a guided meditation, I would ask that you sit in whatever way is comfortable for you. If you want to sit upright and allow yourself to sit with your spine straight, if you want to sit back, if you want to curl up with your kitty cat, that's fine. Just get comfortable, be at ease. You can keep your eyes open or closed, but I'll ask that you breathe from the belly. And in breathing in, just say that you are aware of your breath. And breathing out, you're aware of your out breath. In and out. Breathing in, your breath becomes deep. Breathing out, your breath becomes slow, deep and slow. You're aware of your body, breathing in. You're relaxing your body, breathing out. You're aware of your body and you're relaxing your body. You're releasing any tension held anywhere in the body. You're aware of your feelings. You're breathing in. You're calming your feelings. You're breathing out. You're aware of your feelings and you're calming your feelings. You're aware of your thoughts, breathing in. You're gladdening your thoughts, breathing out. You're aware of your thoughts and you're gladdening your thoughts. You're counting it all joy. You're breathing in. You're declaring that you feel happy to be alive. You are here. We are here. You're breathing out. You're smiling to life. You're happy and you're smiling. And whenever you're ready, begin to wiggle your toes and your fingers and deepening your breath. And we're here and we're ready for direct action together.
So here we are in this moment, ready to engage. You don't have to have been here last week to catch up to what we're doing. Phoebe is going to put the slides up, and we're going to do not too quick, but a quick recap of the discussion we had last week, and then we're going to build on that. Actually, before we get started, Stephen and I thought it might be a good idea to give you a roadmap for how this day is going to go. So.
Right. So what we'll do today, we'll do a very short recap of what we did last week. But then also, at least 2 points during our facilitation today, we'll have opportunities for you to share your thoughts in the chat, and maybe a few people will be able to open their mics and share a few of their thoughts about where we are in this journey. And then toward the end, we will have a video that I think will get you stimulated about your thoughts and your feelings about Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. And then we'll have a breakout session where you'll be able to break into small groups like we did last week so that you can share your thoughts and your emotions. And when we come back from that, a few breakout groups will be able to share what occurred in your breakout group. So that's just an overview, a 50,000-foot view of what we'll be doing today together.
Thank you. So what did we do last week? You can move to the next slide, Phoebe. Thank you. We shared Dr. King's point of view about the method to bring about social change and social justice, not only for African Americans, but for all Americans. And the phase one of the civil rights movement, approximately 1955 to 1966, 67, really had to do with public accommodations, voting rights, with citizenship, with ensuring that African Americans, especially in the South, were full citizens, not second-class citizens. And you can see that Dr. King admonished that it is time for action, and that we have a choice. We can engage in actions that, or not actions, that ultimately promote chaos, or we can do actions that support community. And his philosophical and moral point of view is nonviolent direct action. And if you were alive in the 60s, you know about demonstrations and protests and boycotts and the freedom rides and all of those things where people were nonviolent, even if they were met with violence. And he says it was practically sound and morally excellent. Why is that? No one is harmed. It respects all people. It ratchets up the tension without becoming violent, so that something needs to be done to release the tension. And we remembered that whether we did big actions or small nonviolent direct actions, they all count. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Here were some examples of the type of nonviolent direct actions. This is toward the end. Someone asked last week, was it all about protest? And we said, here are lots of other ways. And since last time, I thought of something else that's other, that if we hire people to do work for us, we pay them a living wage. We pay them a good fee, so that we are contributing to their being able to live well.
One of the things I was going to add quickly, I know we need to move through these slides, but sometimes direct action could just be merely smiling at a child, or just nodding gracefully without any words to someone that you don't know when you pass them in the street. These are all ways in which we contribute to community and love and understanding and social justice. So those are that others down at the bottom of the slide. Sometimes it's just a silent nod and smiling to another person with your eyes.
Because you're recognizing them. that they exist, that they are a human being. And I know that each of us can have a memory of a time when somebody did that for us and it uplifted us or it encouraged us. Yes, thank you, everybody. Love that idea, just smiling, nod, recognizing them, that they exist as a human being. Wow. There are cultures that say that when we don't recognize each other, it's a little death. We're actually contributing to this, the diminishment of the soul of a person. And Phoebe put a note in, positive psychology calls this micro action, micro moments of positivity resonance. Yay. Next slide. And we're still doing a quick recap. And so on the next slide, we said, who wouldn't want to go toward community? We have a picture of what chaos is like, and yet we acknowledge that when injustice occurs, if we do not act in a way, we are, well, not in a way, we are contributing to the forces of chaos. And so building community requires us to act. And so today, just like last week, we invite you to put yourself in the picture. You're not just a tourist today, you're actively engaged in our dialogue and the conversation. And at this point, Stephen, I thought we might ask people to share their experience of watching the movie, or do you want to wait till a little later?
No, I guess we'll go. Is that on the next slide? I believe that's on the next slide.
Well, the next slide actually takes us into Dr. King from 1967 until he died, his evolution.
They can put that in the chat.
Okay.
And we look at those, we read those, and others can see that as well, but we wanted to make sure we leave enough time for that.
And you may, in fact, find that that's something you want to talk about in the breakout group. But what we asked people to do last week was watch the movie One Night in Miami that is streaming on Amazon Prime. It also was released to certain theaters, but I'm not going to theaters, so thank God it was on Amazon Prime. And or Arnold Schwarzenegger's video about what it was like growing up in Austria post-Nazism. His father was a Nazi, and it was the first time he had said that in public. And after the insurrection, he made the video to say to Americans, and he's an American, but he had experienced what it's like for people to be misled by lies and the danger and the demonic energy that could be unleashed. And so he was both warning us and imploring us not to take that route.
All right, so that'd be wonderful if folks could put their comments in the chat. And we do have enough time for, I know Patrice looked at the video, one of the films, she's nodding yes. And
Rachel did also.
Maybe we have time if Patrice or Rachel want to share a quick comment about what you experienced with any of the videos that you looked at. We'd love to hear from you.
You're gonna have to unmute yourself. Or anyone else, oh, Rachel, you're unmuted, go.
Yeah, there was one scene that struck me in One Night in Miami that, of course, she's here. The Jim Brown scene on the porch. Yes. I immediately kind of braced myself for some sort of racist thing and watched it like a hawk. I saw them drink from, the same glasses of lemonade. The daughter and the father, the Beau Bridges character, touched him. They were so excited to see him, and I started to relax a little.
Yes.
Until the bombshell came, and I watched that scene again. I was shocked because I was waiting for it and didn't get it, but it was still there. It came.
And yes, I agree with you. And the impact that had on his spirit. Yes. And that's the dehumanization and evil of racism and bigotry.
But also, one of the things I was going to add about that, Rachel, too. And that's not just with racism, but all of the isms, anti-Semitism.
Yes.
There are these, it reminds me of, you ever see those electronic hidden fences that they have for dogs in different communities? It reminds me, you know, racism and sexism and anti-Semitism and all these evil and negative moral boundaries are there whether we see them or not. And I
Yes.
think that during times like over the last 4 years, I think that some of these things have come to the fore. They've become more visible, but people that are affected by those isms, whether you're Jewish or whether you're Black or you're a woman or a person of color or not, you are well aware of being shocked when you try to cross certain boundaries. And sometimes you try to express it to others, but they oftentimes can't see those invisible boundaries until some of these things that have occurred recently, people like, oh my God, you know, I thought we were beyond that. But the people that are affected, whether you're a woman or you're Jewish or you're Black or any of these things, are acutely aware of those boundaries all the time. And we manage it the best way we can. But we didn't
Yeah.
we wanted to listen more than talk. You got to remember, you got two talkers in Steve Redmon and Uneeda Brewer, but Patrice, go ahead, and then we'll catch up with you.
Something I wanted to piggyback on what you said, Rachel. I was relaxing also because I thought, oh, it's going to be terrible from the beginning. And I was lulled, just like the Jim Brown character was lulled. And out of his humanity, he offered. We're not going to tell you, we're not going to do, you know, I'm not going to spoil it. It was out of his humanity that he approached that situation. So you need to go back 2 more slides right there. And so one more. Your last week, you did not get the assignment, but that's okay. You can still watch the movie. You can still see Arnold and you can still talk about it in your breakout group. So we want to go to the next slide because this week we want to talk about the evolution of Dr. King's perspective on what it would take to bring about social justice. Up until 1967, he says that the civil rights leaders didn't see too well during the last 10 years that racism is still alive in American society. This was 1967. We're in 2021. He could be speaking this to us now, just what Stephen said before. I don't want to read all the quotes, but I do want to land on the third one, where he says, in the final analysis, racism is evil because its ultimate goal is genocide. Hitler was a sick and tragic man who carried racism to its logical conclusion. He ended up leading a nation to the point of killing 6 million Jews. And just as Stephen said, when you see racism, you can say African-American, you can say Jewish, you can say woman, you can say any other person of color, because any kind of discrimination and bigotry, when you think about it, it's hard to believe ultimately wants to remove people from social interaction. So if you have only ever seen the Dr. King I Have a Dream speech, we want you to know he evolved.
Yeah.
By 1967, he had a whole nother point of view. And Stephen is going to say some things about that.
I was going to add to that, Uneeda, not only will we share with you some of those other points of view in Dr. King's evolution, but a lot of people don't realize, and I know many of you do, but his last 2 years of his life, he was ostracized by both the white community, the government, the Black community, not all Black churches, not all synagogues, not all mosques, not all people embrace King. They thought he was a troublemaker. They thought he was unpatriotic. They thought he was communist. And, you know, that was one of the worst things you could do to be called a communist back then. So he was ostracized. He was cast aside. And that's something to keep in mind. And we'll touch on a few of the reasons why we believe, according to scholars and others, why he hit a nerve and was ostracized, although he is loved and embraced universally now.
And what he's loved and embraced for now stops at 1963. Oh, wasn't that nice? He was just dreaming. But Dr. King was an activist, he was an organizer, he was an intellectual, and he was a warrior for social justice. And he was hounded by the FBI. He was invited, in quotes, to commit suicide rather than undergo all, yes, thank you, Janet. He was taking on capitalism, militarism, and he spoke movingly about the Vietnam War and about how we were spending money when we could be eradicating poverty. He was a warrior. Next slide.
Speak about this now because I'm no longer working at the DIA and other agencies like that, but it's declassified that there was a counterintelligence program or CONTELPRO that infiltrated different groups and tried to fabricate information and lies and plant seeds of discord within. These were some of the forces that were at play during. Some of those forces are at play now. So we'll move on.
So Dr. King became radicalized. Go back one more. Became radicalized, and you know, radical just means root. And he looked at what is the root cause, and he said, in order for us to really bring about social justice, we need a radical distribution of political and economic power. Wow. Talk about upsetting the forces that be. And now we want you to hear Dr. King in his own words. So we're going to share some video of him speaking from 1967 on. It's just 3 minutes. And it may take us just a little bit of time to get it queued up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just be patient with us. We got to queue it
Uneeda
up.
and Stephen, this is Phoebe. While she's bringing that link up, all of these links and slides will be included in your Friday email.
Now, are you able to see what my screen?
Yes, we're able to see. Thank you.
We must also realize that the problems of racial injustice and economic injustice cannot be solved without a radical redistribution of political and economic power. We read one day, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But if a man doesn't have a job or an income, he has neither life nor liberty and the possibility for the pursuit of happiness. He merely exists. Estimated that we spend $322,000 for each enemy we kill in Vietnam, while we spend in the so-called war on poverty in America only about $53 for each person classified as poor. The promises of the Great Society have been shot down on the battlefield of Vietnam, making the poor, white and Negro, bear the heaviest burdens both at the front and at home. The other thing I want you to understand is this, that it didn't cost the nation 1 penny to integrate lunch counters. It didn't cost the nation 1 penny to guarantee the right to vote. But now we are dealing with issues that cannot be solved without the nation spending billions of dollars and undergoing a radical redistribution of economic power. Yes, yes. All labor has dignity. Yes. But you're doing another thing. You are reminding not only Memphis, but you are reminding the nation that it is a crime for people to live in this rich nation and receive starvation wages. America's opportunity to help bridge the gulf between the haves and the have-nots. And the question is whether America will do it. There's nothing new about poverty. What is new is that we now have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty. And the real question is whether we have the will.
The real question is whether we have the will. The real question is whether we have the will, individually and collectively.
And I think somebody put in chat that in a way, that's what we heard President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris speaking about in terms of shifting and responding to the needs of the American people. We have a decision point, Stephen. We're ready to put people in breakout groups.
Yeah.
And we originally said 12 minutes. I'm going to suggest we do 10 so that we have time on the back end for conversation.
Wonderful. One thing I was going to add that I hope we don't get lost in there. And I wrote a couple of notes to myself. I said, you know, with all of these thoughts about King, we want to keep in mind that I wrote, most importantly, and I'll put this in the chat also, most importantly, Dr. King always made it clear that the struggles and challenges we face as human beings are ultimately spiritual.
Yes.
Always refocused on the reality of the truth that while we serve God by serving others in need, we remember that constant prayer, meditation, universal fellowship, and love are the only paths to social, political, environmental, and economic justice for everyone. How do we do this? We do this by using our shapes to serve others. What is shapes? Shapes stand for our spiritual gifts, our heart, our abilities, our personality, our experience, and our seeds. We all have unique and beautiful shapes that are the gifts from God, and we are born and live to share our God-given shapes with others with love, and sometimes tough love, but always guided with a spirit of humility and love.
That is really beautiful.
And I'll put that in the chat for everyone.
Thank you. And if you're aware of the Whole Being Institute SPIRE well-being approach, you hear the echoes: spiritual, meaning, purpose. And I won't go through them all because we want to give you time to have a conversation. If you don't want to join a group, you can stay in the large room. Stephen and Caroline and Phoebe and I will be here, and we'll be happy to speak with you. And the question, we don't have to go back to this.
I love the groups.
Yeah, but we do want to give you a chance to speak together because people said last week that was really valuable.
Okay.
I'm thinking that it was valuable, so I think we should do it.
Okay.
Okay. We can, yeah, if we give like whatever between now and quarter of, Caroline, is that like 8 minutes or 7 minutes, something like that? And we want you to talk about your reactions to Dr. King's statement and talk about what you have done or think you can do in answer to the question, do we have the will to do what's required? And again, we'd love for you to stay in the group, but then we won't have a chance for other people to share. So that's why we want to put you in small groups.
Okay. Are we ready? Here you go. And what is the message that you want them to discuss?
What their reaction to the 7 quotes that they heard, and what are you doing in your own life that allows you to say, I'm moving toward radical readjustment.
And please discuss your reaction to Dr. King's words, remarks, and what else?
And actions that you have taken or can take to move toward the radical redistribution of economic and political power.
Mhm.
Thank you for typing that in, Caroline. And thank you for everyone who's in the room with us now. Bunny and Helene, Kathy, Maria, Barbara. If you want to talk, please unmute yourself and then we can talk together about your reaction. Kathy, you ready?
Yeah, so I've been speaking out kind of like Dr. Martin Luther King, and I felt a lot of the repercussions in my life because of it. And it's been kind of intense. So I understand that part of it.
Mhm.
And I'm working on legislation. I send stuff out to my congressmen and women, and I'm getting responses back that are positive, and I have hope. It's like my dream that that change is going to be made, but it can be lonely in trying to make change and speaking out.
And I'm hearing some of that sadness in your voice. Yeah.
Speaking out against any type of change. And I often go back to, it's not always a black and white issue. It went back like to when they were trying to change the relationship of the sun and the earth and whether or not the placement was right. It was, and people were getting ostracized because they wanted to have the placement of the sun and the earth to be understood as the relationship was to be different.
Mhm.
And the church was so opposed to that. And we're just trying to make, equality, spiritual equality. And it's almost like that, like people are so opposed to change. Anyway.
Change is hard. And Kathy, are you weeping a little?
Nope. I'm nope, I'm not. I've learned to become a better writer. I've learned to become a better writer to get the message out of spiritual equality for all religions. And I send my comments out to all different people. I've sent it out to the JCC too. I don't know if they've received it or read it, but
I'm sure if they received it, they read it because they're that kind of organization, where we know that people have responses to what we do. And so hearing from people when we have an open heart allows us to reflect on what we're doing. And if we need to make change, we can. And if not, then we explain why we're doing what we're doing. Bunny, I know last time you didn't want to unmute. Do you want to unmute today or not?
where's Bunny?
It's up in the, well, I don't know where she is on your screen. Not certain. Okay. Well, you just stay with us. We're glad you're here.
Uneeda, did Dr. King have some suggestions on how to operationalize the redistribution of wealth?
Lofty ones. He talked about a guaranteed annual income. And President Biden, and you heard what he said about if you're working, you should be able to live. When he went to Memphis I didn't realize this, to march with the sanitation workers, these were men who had no place to go to the bathroom when they were picking up the garbage for the city. We know that they're essential because we we knew it then, but we lived through a pandemic where if we didn't have people doing essential jobs like that, the disease would have been even more, well, it can't even be more horrific, but it would have been even worse if we can imagine that. But he really did talk about giving people a living wage, a guaranteed income. And he had organized the Poor People's Campaign because he said, we realize that the conditions in which African Americans live exist across ethnic groups. And so we need to be social justice warriors, not just warriors for civil rights. And so he wanted to petition the government to use our resources to eradicate poverty, which included giving people a living wage.
And
He
do you
actually-
think that some of the discontent in the Rust Belt, right, is poverty related? In other words, some of the support for our former president is around economics and people feeling like they didn't have a fair wage. Or is there any similarity at all? Are they two? I'm just trying to find ways for us to come together. Do you know what I mean? And is there any
Yes.
similarity in these issues, or are they completely, in your estimation, different?
The people that I have been reading, and you may have been reading them too, writing in the New York Times, the Atlantic Monthly, talk about what Dr. King said, that the pervasiveness of racism in our culture and how that influences so much else that goes on. And so if people are led to believe that despite their economic situation, they are superior, then it's not just economics, it's more that spiritual warfare that Kathy and Stephen were talking about, that if I don't see you as a human being equal to me, then I may not support economic activities that are in my interest, because what one party has done through dog whistles, and now not even dog whistles, is say, we don't want healthcare because those undeserving Black people will get a free ride. And so I'd rather not have any if it means that those folks don't have any. And that's a spiritual problem. That's a spiritual problem.
Beautifully put. Beautifully put. That's a wonderful example of kind of where we are. And I thought how multifactorial, as Biden was talking about yesterday,
Yes.
the problems we are that we have to address right now, from environment to racism to economic to COVID.
Pandemic. There was no plan. They discovered there was no plan. No wonder they didn't want to meet with them in the transition. They had no plan.
Wow.
We're distributing the vaccine. So no wonder it is haphazard. There was no plan. And so they're now, well, they were the people who did the Ebola and the H1N1. And you know, we had, any death is too many, but I think we had none from Ebola and 10 or 12,000 from H1N1. And we've got over 400,000 because there was no plan. What I heard Biden say that I thought was so amazing, he was swearing in people. Did you see this? Did anybody see this? He was swearing in, you know, appointees, and they were doing it on Zoom. And he said to them, hear me clearly. I will fire you on the spot if I hear you disrespecting or talking down to anyone.
Yes,
You are here to serve the people.
I heard
You're
that.
not here to serve me. I'm here to serve the people. I will fire you on the spot. And I went, oh my goodness, he's serious about respecting people.
Wow. Should I bring everyone back?
Yes, you should bring everyone back. We
All right,
could
let me
just
do
go
that.
on chatting,
Yes,
couldn't
we
we?
could. Okay.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Bunny. Thank you, Barbara.
Let me bring everyone back. And
You know, you got a light. And whether you speak or not, your presence lights the room. And so thank you for keeping your light here with us.
Okay.
Where's my buddy?
Stephen's having a good time, I'm sure.
Yes.
He loves the breakout rooms.
I decided not to go because I
Yeah.
wanted to be here with you if you were in the large group and to support
Yeah.
Caroline.
No, I appreciate
Hey, welcome
that.
back, everybody.
Yeah, we'll get folks back in just a second. Here they come.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. We know that you could have kept going, right?
I agree, Bunny. Uneeda and Stephen are pure delights. I agree.
Elaine,
thank you
sorry,
so
we got cut off.
Unmute yourself, Elaine.
No, I was just saying, Phoebe, how much I enjoy your contributions and how wonderful you are. That was that's what I got cut off.
I echo that. I echo that.
Me too.
That was
All
what I
right.
got cut off from. Okay.
Yeah, I want you to know that my breakout group was ready to stay there for another week.
I know. I know.
And the technology just cut us off.
You didn't get my little note that said breakout rooms will close?
We kept going.
Oh,
Listen,
so you
everybody. We know that we could keep going, right? We could have a day's worth of conversation and activity. We just have the time that we have. And so Stephen said, and we said we would ask for, how about we get 2 breakout groups to share with us? And Stephen, would it be terrible if I called on your group without you telling us, but whoever was in your group?
Stay quiet. I'll stay quiet.
Yeah, let somebody from your group. If anybody was in Stephen's group and you say, I gotta say this. If I don't say this, I'm just gonna, not be able to sleep well tonight. Somebody unmute yourself and tell us your experience in the group. Yes, Wendy, wouldn't that be great? Stephen and I talked about that last night, that, oh my God, we have so much, we could just do like a whole day.
My group actually, I'm hoping someone from my group does chime in, but I just want to say before they chime in that we were on the brink of solving all of the world's problems in 8 minutes.
Okay, somebody got to speak up. You got to speak up because we were asking. Come on, who is
We
it?
were on the brink of solving the problems. It's Terry here. And,
Okay, go Terry.
we had good conversation about we get in our own way a lot of times. And, instead of it in its perspective and just understanding that there are going to be other opinions out there and putting yourself out in the arena and not sitting on the sidelines. But oftentimes we get in our own way doing it. Yep. And I know the ladies had other good input too.
Thank you, Terry. And Phoebe put in the chat about Amanda, is her name Gorman? The young poet laureate. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Ah, she's 22. And I'm thinking when I was 22, I didn't have that kind of wisdom at all. Go girl. Ooh, she was all right. She was
well, I learned a lot from my little group, and I could see if I did that, I'd be brilliant. If I kept with that group, I'd become brilliant.
Well, you know what? You can keep with that group, and it's another truism both from whole being and from life, that when we have connections and support, we are able to do more than we could by ourselves.
Ellen,
Yes.
don't be shy. You've got on a leopard jacket. You cannot be shy.
All right, here comes the lioness.
All right, go.
We all were in agreement about connections and how we can influence change and shift and love and understanding, compassion by connecting. And for me, and we discussed this, it's about losing our ego and not worrying about who's right and just being there in the moment. And with my group, we were there in the moment, and I love them.
And love you too.
Oh,
Thank
gosh.
And reminds me of my grandmother when I used to, I was born and reared in New York City in Harlem, but I spent my summers in a small town called Edenton, North Carolina.
My neck of the woods.
Yeah, and one of the things that you just touched on, Ellen, and others have had that experience as well. Sometimes we've lost the art of just sitting with others. Just sitting. Just sitting. You know, not sometimes we get in the way with our words, but sometimes just going and sitting quietly and snapping some peas, and that's it.
Just being present. You know, there's a whole practice of being fully present with oneself and then with another person. And it is so very amazing. When you said shelling beans, I just have to have a small aside. When we were kids and we were at my grandmother's, and all the women would be shelling the peas and beans that they were going to can and cook the whole summer. And we would just be there with each other. And I'm sure you all have those kinds of experiences too, where you're just with each other, supporting, caring, laughing, and being a human being. Wow. I did want to land on one thing. Integration, Dr. King says, it's not just about mixing people, like putting a Black person in a group or another kind of person in another group. It is a political strategy where we build and share power, economic and political power, so that we can build a new and great nation. And a lot of times some of the terms from the 60s get distorted and are just emotional. Oh, well, integration is nice, so we can all, you know, be together and get along. It is also a strategy for increasing shared power. I guess we have to go to the next slide because it's almost time for us to end, and we don't want to end without the challenge. You can keep going. I think it's probably like 4 slides from here. It's the next one.
Everyone's going to get these slides anyway.
Okay. So our challenge today is, what can each of us do to make progress toward the radical redistribution of political and economic power? He says that's what we need to do. And he says, do we have the will? And that we said, you don't have to be marching, don't have to be saving the world, although that would be great. You can do what you can do in your neck of the woods. And I think, who was it? Kathy talked about writing letters.
Yeah.
Yay, Kathy.
I'd like to share with you what I've written. So I'll
Please.
try to contact you by email if I get
yes.
contact information.
Yes, we have contact information on the next slide. So amazing that you ask about that. From my own point of view, I am hopeful that we have a person who wants to give us a direction toward fundamental change. And we know from Dr. King's life, that's just one life, but from any life of a person who's trying to make fundamental change, that it's very difficult. And if you watch the movie One Night in Miami, you will be reminded of those difficulties that we encounter. And so we invite you to check in with yourself and say, well, given my situation, given my strengths, given my circumstance, what's a small action I can take that will keep moving us toward community?
Beautiful, beautiful. And, you know, I wanted to offer, since we're toward the end, I can offer a love meditation.
I think we can end happily with the love meditation because, you know, Dr. King said it, that darkness can't drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate can't drive out hate. Only love can do that. And so let's have a love meditation. Thank you so much. We have loved being here with you.
Awesome. So if everyone would just, again, get relaxed, put your feet flat on the floor, or just get comfortable. Get comfortable. What you define, oftentimes before meditation, we define for you what comfort is. Your feet flat on the floor and sit upright. Sit anywhere, anywhere that your body is telling you that you want to sit, with your eyes open or closed, and begin to breathe from the belly. And say these things to yourself as I say these things. May I be peaceful, happy, and light in my body and mind. May I be safe and free from injury. May I be free from anger, fear, and anxiety. May I learn to look at myself with the eyes of understanding and love. May I be able to recognize and touch the seeds of joy and happiness in myself and others. May I learn to identify and see the sources of anger, craving, and even delusion in myself and others. May I know how to nourish the seeds of joy in myself and others every day, every moment, and every breath. May I be able to live fresh, solid, and free and loving. May I be free from attachment and aversion, but not be indifferent. May I live and love freely and wisely. Begin to wiggle your toes and your fingers and come back to your wide awake self in gratitude.
And let me just get Uneeda back here as well, just so that I can thank you from my heart to yours, also in honor of the JCC and WBI. And I can, Phoebe, if you want to pop on here, you can too. So important to have this conversation. So important to spend just time together talking, you know, in a breakout room. Namaste, as Ellen would say. Thanks for the wisdom and love, as Jessica said. There's lots going on in the chat. Please
Thank
share
you
that
so
beautiful
much.
meditation. Thanks, everyone, and thank you both. The journey continues.
It
Thank
does.
Take
you.
care, everyone.
Namaste.
Thank
Namaste.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. So long for now.
Feel free to unmute and say thank you and hello and goodbye, and we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next
Thank
time.
you. Stay
Thank
well.
you.
Stay safe.
Get well. Mwah.
Thank you.
Sending love to you. Mwah.
Take care.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Uneeda.
Stevens. Thank you,
Thank you,
Caroline.
Jen.
Thank you, Phoebe.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care. I'm going to do one more shot so everybody can see each other. And then we'll go and have an amazing, amazing week, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye for now.